because we moved the computer and changed a monitor.
Yeah, apparently changing monitors destroyed the universe.
OBS just freaked out.
Oh, right. So that's all taken care of. Now our time belongs to you.
All right.
Do, do, do.
Get away from there with your mouse.
Sorry.
And let's play a game.
Yeah, let me... So, as far as what what we're doing here and what this is... Oh, and also what this is. We've got two different games. These are things that... That's...
Bye-bye.
Good job. These are games that you've actually made inside of your house.
Yes, I have a laser. It's a 60-watt CO2 laser. So everything you see is engraved and cut on the machine. Or kind of a tiny little attic-like office.
Cool.
Sounds very indie.
All games should be made with lasers somehow.
They do help. I'll
Yeah.
say that much. I couldn't have done this without one, honestly. Like, the level of detail in the pieces would just be impossible with anything less.
So give us a rundown of Yomi's gates, and I'll start trying to set it up.
Yes, explain to people why they should be absolutely freaking out right now, because they should.
So this is actually, they have the very first copy sold, so that's pretty cool. But it's a 2-player strategy game. It's for people who like intense war games, but don't want to spend all day playing one. A single playthrough is usually about 15 to 45 minutes, so hopefully we have enough time for a whole one here.
We'll try to play fast and bad so that so that it moves.
So the way it works, it's essentially like chess with terrain. What you see on the board are mountains and forests, and they're setting up a random configuration for this game. So every time you play, the map is a little bit different. Further, all of your pieces start off the board. So once the board is set up and they've placed their fortresses in the temple, they're ready to go. There's no additional setup. You're not fiddling with an army or like a million different pieces. You're just good to play.
All right, and we pick our bases too, and we get a gate. Oh, these are so awesome. I love the gates. Every time I get to put one together, it makes me happy.
Yeah, that's a lot of people's favorite piece. It's pretty cool. It's the only three-dimensional piece in the game, so to speak. Everything else is extruded 2D.
And, okay, so the terrain itself has different effects on various different mounts, and not mounts, mounted and like cavalry units and various other units. And so it's like, the way that I understand it, obviously I'm not the dev, so I might be slaughtering this perception, but it's kind of like a mix between chess and Risk, in the sense that you've got these units that you're creating over time that you have to then strategically move across the board and control.
That's pretty fair, yeah.
The space.
Yep. It's most inspired by this old Avalon Hill game called Feudal, where you had a modular board and you had a lot of the same thing with units that move in their own way. So I took that, and that was my starting off point, where I was like, if I made Feudal, what would I do differently?
You can't be there.
Fine.
Gotta be. Yeah, you can't get on the edge.
Right, you're right.
You can place
I'm
it.
just
you
trying
place it
to-
anywhere else, but not
So,
on the edge.
this
We're gonna
is-
play a quick game.
Right, yes,
Because
let's
it's gonna
do
be
this
hard
quick.
to describe
These-
otherwise.
These pieces here that we're placing down are spawning locations, basically.
Right.
They're also a point where you can lose as well. If somebody gets into the core of your base, you lose the game. There are also special units inside of here.
So
that
hold
also
on,
make
hold on.
Oh,
This you're
what?
going like crazy out of order.
Sorry.
Let's talk about win states. First off, you can take the base and then you win, or you can kill all the guys of the other team and then you win. Every turn you can spawn stuff in here. If you capture this gate by using an energy on it, you can spawn stuff over there too. So it's like a cool point of contention. There, I'm kind of condensing it
All right.
because you don't want to.
There's actually a third victory
you
state
skipped
where you
one.
defeat all of the enemy heroes.
That's right.
Also,
Just the heroes on the board, right? So if the board
No.
is completely
No.
empty, or all of them entirely?
No, you have to be all the heroes.
right. So the 3 win states are standing army victory, where if you can wipe out all of the enemy units that that have been brought into place so far, you win. The second one is a hero victory, where if you defeat the 3 unique hero units, you also win. But you never have to actually bring them all into play. So there's like a risk-reward mechanic there, where you're like, do I want to use my most powerful units and risk losing with a hero victory? Or do I want to keep them in reserve to stop my opponent from getting that win? And then the third way, which happens pretty rarely, is capturing the stronghold. So if you can get into the enemy base, you can win that way.
Right.
So what you're trying to do at any given time is protect the pieces you've brought into place so far, but you also want to be aggressive with them because you're trying to defeat the enemy army and get into their base.
Right. Yes.
Or get into their base, actually.
Also, just so you know, we're playing with the just to keep things sort of simple. We're playing with the same type of armies, but there also is this entire other set that is these kind of Yomi, like the Yomis. Oh, that one. Oh, okay. Yes. Thank you, Calvin. See these little beautifully. Actually, this one's my favorite right
Is there
here.
any way to zoom in the camera, or is it stuck at that zoom?
It's kind of automatic, so I kind of have to coax it. There we go. So there's, yeah, we can't get closer to the board itself unless we could place it like across the board. That might work. We don't know what we're doing.
We're just making this up as we go.
Yeah. We got this, guys. Hold on. Earthquake. Here, put it here.
Okay.
And then...
So yeah, there are 2 factions. There's the Samurai, which they're playing with, and there are the Oni.
There we go.
Each faction has 7 units, including 4 that you have multiples of, and 3 that are unique. And they all have different abilities. Like the archer can shoot a couple spaces away, the mounted samurai can go really far across the board.
Alright.
The samurai are the introductory faction. There's nothing really complicated going on with them, and they're good if you've never played before. The Oni are a little bit more advanced. They break the rules a bit more. Like there's one that when she destroys a unit, she also destroys a unit in reserve. Like that's really bending the rules a bit.
Gotcha. Yeah. I can't remember how this cavalry...
You just moved into a forest.
Yeah, how does cavalry interact with forests again?
So,
wow, this is nice. I have the dev right here to remind me.
So there are 2 types of movements. There's infantry and cavalry. Infantry costs 1 to move everywhere, and if it moves into a mountain, it stops. Cavalry can never enter mountains, and they spend 2 to go through forests.
Right.
So they're slowed down by forests, because otherwise in that open space, cavalry are lethal. They can go really far and kill lots of things.
Yes.
So yeah, I don't even know how we're gonna be able to play a game in this time, because normally it's like a 40-minute game if like people are
focused.
Yeah, and like have played
let's
it
just
once
play
before.
through a couple turns, kind of show off what's. It's just the board is gorgeous. The pieces are awesome. Everything feels good, and when you're actually playing this game, it's this intense thought battle, and
it's kind of the thing where it
hard
takes a
to
little
express.
while to get proficient at, but then like the strategy is like really deep.
Mm-hmm. It's I feel like it is like the next chess in a lot of ways. Like it takes that sort of space in someone's head. And hi, kitten.
I wouldn't call it next chess, but it's definitely a really, really cool strategy.
Not like the next chess, but like something that occupies that same brain space.
So you're done? That's your turn?
I am done with my turn, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not playing to win, I'm just playing to play because I can't think well enough to do this
play
for
this
sure.
not to win.
You will, yeah, you can't not. That's kind of what I figured. Star, she's gonna be a cat. And
So
try to
Calvin
get on
is
the board.
red and Alex is black, is that right?
Yes.
So it looks like Calvin's going towards the Torii Arch, that temple down there. Now, if you capture that, it acts as a waypoint. So normally, like he's bringing in his units at his base. You can bring in 2 units per turn. If you capture the temple, you can bring in a 3rd unit per turn, and it spawns on the temple.
Right.
So it really helps you capture that space a little better.
Yeah, it's like a very strategic thing because it lets you bring more things out. Star.
Right. having it won't win the game for you, but ignoring it will generally make you lose. So the pieces are designed in such a way that when you're done moving them, if you want to, you can lay it flat to remember what pieces you move each turn.
Oh.
Right.
Yes.
I forgot.
Right, so I'm done moving those.
Yeah, it's easy when you get like 3 characters out to remember what's going on, but when the board gets a little bit full, it's like, oh crud, what did I do? And yeah,
I generally don't see more than about 8 units on the board at once per faction, because once the conflict starts, the turnover rate is really high.
Yeah.
That killing happens quick.
I'm probably making bad decisions. That's okay though. No, I don't want to be there.
Yeah, you don't.
There's
It is challenging to both type things and say things.
You're allowed to answer the things that happen in chat, like right on the call. Don't feel like you have to type them. That's totally, don't worry about that. But if you want to type in like where people can find out more about the game, like links, you should do that. Because from what I understand, just in general, marketing physical games is way harder than marketing a digital game.
Oh my god, yes.
And
so,
yeah, and this is a challenge for you, kind of. So.
Yes, very much. So my games tend to do really well in person. Like I did too many games here in Oaks, Pennsylvania, not long ago, and both my games did really well. I did Philly Gamescom, which was mostly tabletop RPGs and some miniatures with a few board games. I did really well there. I debuted Yomi's Gate at South by Southwest, which was awesome. And again, when people see the game and they can pick up the pieces and they can look at stuff, they're like, wow, this is cool. But when the best thing you have online is an iPhone and you take pictures, like, it's a lot harder to be like, this is what the game is, this is what it's like. You can't convey that. You can't convey, like, when you set up the board, they have these interlocking tabs and everything kind of just clicks together.
Ezox, the name of this game is Yomi's Gate, and it is made entirely by hand, basically, like via machine, but like in your own house. This is all laser etched and laser cut plastic, and like there's just like nothing that compares to like the feel of these, and like it feels both homemade and really slick at the same time.
Your turn.
Oh, my turn. What did you do?
I took the gate.
You did.
It's mine.
Ooh, he's pretty entrenched down there.
Yeah. Let's see. What
I'm
are
not
my
playing
options?
super
Archers
well
may
because I'm
attack
trying to move
twice
it
per turn. Archers
quick,
may
but-
move and attack in any order.
Right, so usually
Alright, so-
a unit, once they've attacked, their turn is over, because by default units have 1 attack. Something that makes the archers special is that they can attack twice, or they can move and attack in any order. So they have 4 energy and a range attack costs 2, and moving costs 1. So something they can do is they can like pop out of cover, shoot something, and jump back. Or if there are 2 things within range at the start of their turn, they can spend 2 and 2 and shoot both.
Yeah. It's very tricky because it's very much like you take your turn and you're safe, and then they take their turn and they're safe. Am I yelling?
No.
Oh.
I'm saying hi.
Oh. Oh, yeah.
I'm
Hello,
gonna say
people.
hi to Carrie.
Hi, Carrie.
Carrie is not so serious. She works at Alchemy.
She draws butts.
It's true.
She does lots.
Sorry, Carrie. Can't help it. So, what is it about this game that you think people should buy it for? Like, what's the reason for buying this game? Sell us your game.
I would like to pay my rent. Is that a viable answer?
We
Well,
think
like-
so.
Like, what type of gamers, what kind of games would probably enjoy this? And
Did you take a turn?
So it's
really don't know.
angled at people who like strategy games, who like the games like Risk, Axis and Allies, Feudal, even chess itself. But it's supposed to be really fast. Like I grew up playing strategy games with my dad, And it was not uncommon for us to spend between 3 and 5 hours playing a single game of Risk. So I made this really to play with my dad, to have a game that we could play together in under an hour, because we don't have that kind of time anymore.
I understand that part, definitely.
So
It's also completely non-random. Like, deterministic strategy is pretty rare. The randomness is the environment, and you respond to the randomness that's created at the beginning of the game as the game unfolds.
right.
Mm.
You
The
respond
actual
with skill
combat.
and thought.
Right. The combat itself, you're not going to attack somebody, roll a die, and be like, whoops, I messed up, and now I lost.
Yeah.
Like, that was one of the things I really hated with Risk, is like you'd go in with an army of 20, and they'd be defending with 5, and you would lose.
Mhm.
Like, oh no, I had like overwhelming odds of success, and I didn't succeed.
So you keep track of the archer's actions just by doing them all in one turn.
Yeah.
You like move the archer and then the archer's done.
Right. So each piece is moved independently, and you can only move one piece at a time. So with the laying them down when you're done, you only have to pay attention to one thing, and you never have to remember stuff.
Cool.
That was another thing, is like my dad and I would have all kinds of counters and tokens and things, and there'd just be so much information on the board, and we wouldn't be able to remember it all. Now with Yomi's Gate, I designed it so that the state of the board is the full state of information. There's nothing hidden. There's nothing you have to keep track of. Theoretically, you could walk away in the middle of a turn. Somebody else could take over for you, and they would know exactly what's happening. They'd see if you've captured the temple. They'd see what you've got in reserve, what's moved and what hasn't. Part of that is for asynchronous play. Eventually, I'd like to turn this into a digital version and have it so you can send your turn over. And part of that is to set up challenge scenarios. Like, if you have a turn that's half completed, and you can say, like, how would you accomplish like this particular goal? Like, can you take the stronghold in this turn, or can you defeat the enemy heroes in this turn?
That's cool. There's definitely a level of like puzzle in this as well, like in that kind of a thing. Like, in this turn, is it worth risking this to do that, or oh no, I forgot that you can actually summon things from there. Oh well, that's okay. I'm just dumb.
Yeah.
I'm gonna lose.
Could one of the mods ban that guy? That would be awesome.
Oh, HFS?
Yeah.
Aw, yeah, that's kind of not cool. Why would you do that?
I would take this.
Katori asks, do you have player sheets with the pieces moves? I
Yes.
do. So the instructions are actually completely digital. So I'll post the link for that again. It's redborn.com products/gate. And the PDF is on that link. You can download it. I designed the instructions so that each faction had one page. Where if you had a printout, or if you had like a tablet or whatever with you, you'd have that one page to reference, and all of the information would be there. And there's one of them.
I was just like, here, we have it. It is in physical form. One of the cool things that you've done with this game, since you're kind of making it yourself and distributing it yourself, is you've got like these different tiers of game itself. Like the version we have with the really awesome box is like the top of the line, like collector's edition kind of thing. And then you have different levels of the
Right.
game itself too, right? With like different colored pieces and things. How does that work?
So when I was designing the game, I didn't really have much of a mind for how the game would eventually be produced. I kind of just wanted to make the game, right? This is actually my first release. I started work, I think, last February or so, maybe February or March, and I released it in March of this year. So it took me about a year, and I kind of just said, here's what the game's going to be. And then eventually had to be like, wait a second, materials cost a lot of money. Laser takes a lot of time. Like the deluxe edition of the game with the handmade home assembled box, all the boards and pieces, all the stuff, takes 3.5 hours per copy to make.
Just to cut the pieces out.
To cut the pieces, and that's actually working. So like, if I'm planning to make like 3 in a day, and I start my day by cutting the boxes, and then I get to cutting the pieces and the boards, that's counting me working on the boxes while the laser does the rest of the stuff.
Oh man.
So it's a lot of time, it's a lot of work. The box takes up as much material as the rest of the game combined. So I made that version and was like, well, let's just see. You know, people can decide if they want that, and I priced it accordingly. The full thing is $120 right now. And then I said, well, maybe people want to like make their own boxes. I know foam core is like a big thing for tabletop enthusiasts. So if you want to make your own foam core box, that's something you can do with the standard version. And then I actually did like an early access thing 3 months before the game came out, where I was making clear boards, because at the time that's all I had access to. I started this with materials from Lowe's. I just went to Lowe's and got acrylic sheets because that's the thing that they sell. And I had clear, and that was it. And eventually I got like one sheet of blue because I had a different project. And so originally it was clear and blue. So I
think
did
I've seen
the basic
pictures
version.
of that.
Yep, there's a couple on the actual listing.
Oh, cool.
So I continue to offer that in case people want that sort of thing. And you can buy the Oni and Samurai armies in whatever color individually. So if you bought basic and you're like, wow, I really like this, you could buy the Oni later.
All right, so I think I'm going to take my one turn. I'm going to kick your butt, Calvin. And then I just want to also show off real quick the other game that you're making, too.
Sure.
Because,
I'm going to answer a few questions here.
Yeah, there's definitely been a couple questions, so feel free to do that while I think.
So, someone asks, is there a difference between the horse rider with and without a sword?
Oh, I think
Yes. The one with the downward-facing spear is the mounted samurai, and the one with the sword above his head is the shogun, which is the hero. The idea being that they look very similar because on the battlefield, you would have a hard time being like, who is the master fighter and who's the guy that's just dressed up in armor that looks like it. So there's a clear difference. Like they're very distinct when you look at them. But at a glance, you might make that human mistake. In a game with no randomness during the game, I thought that kind of thing was important. The Shogun has one more energy and he can attack twice compared to the mounted samurai, so he's pretty lethal. Have I talked to any publishers? I have not. Right now, I'm totally independent. I'm just making things on demand from home. It's just me and my laser. I mostly do website stuff, and I've been trying to get in shows here and there.
Felicia Day saw your game.
She did. She actually has one of the first editions. For South by, I did the first 10 were numbered. They're all serialized in the box, like 1 of 10, 2 of 10. So she has 10 of 10. And she liked it so much, she did like a brief live interview on Geek and Sundry, like right on the spot.
Oh, we're gonna go switch this one? Okay.
Yeah,
So pretty cool.
I remember you telling you, because we were both at South by Southwest when that happened. I remember you telling me about it. Like you disappeared for like hours.
Right.
And then you're like, this happened. So everyone take one last look at this. I'm going to also just really quick show everyone this board in case you just peeked in. This board actually, you can kind of randomize the board each time you play, so there's a different playing field to deal with each time. This is, I wish that this was like a digital game that I could just be like, go out and buy a copy for $10 because you'll understand once you play.
Right.
And you just have to take my word for it that this game is like it is an absolute pleasure to play.
I do have limited Unity experience. I was talking about Unity earlier today in the chat. But I'm not like a programmer by training, so I haven't done a digital version. I don't know anything about netcode or taking care of any of that sort of stuff. I do want to do a digital version. I have basically no money right now.
So if people buy it now, maybe a digital version can happen later.
that would be nice, yep. I also want to do a faction expansion. The next one on the table is the Tengu.
Ooh.
So, the idea is that the story is Izanami. She's like the individual goddess of creation. She is fallen and has become corrupted and allied with Oni to invade the mortal realm. And in doing so, she breaks this spirit barrier at Yomi's gate. So the idea for the Tengu is that once that disturbance happens, they've been awakened in their mountaintops. We gotta go like rebalance everything.
Oh, that's awesome. So there's like a whole story to the whole thing.
Yeah, tabletop sim. This would be great on tabletop sim.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
um,
That would be really cool. I wonder if there's just some way to take pictures from a specific angle of the board and just
it's a little more complicated than that.
create some
There's
sprites
3D
with that.
things.
So, Yomi's Gate is a little bit harder to get your head around in some ways than what we're about to play. Which is why I feel like we can just really quick go over it in like the next 5 minutes, just kind of give people an idea of what this is, too. This is something that you came up with not that long ago. This was like a really quick game that you did, right, Jake? I feel like I remember hearing about this after South by Southwest.
Right. So part of my story for South by Southwest, I live in the Philadelphia suburbs, and South by was in Austin, Texas. It's a bit of a journey. So I drove, right? Because I was on the way down, I had to bring copies of my game. It would have been like $400 shipping to ship all these copies of my game and stuff for the booth.
Oh, jeez.
So I drove by myself, and while I was down there, the developer group up here started a game jam, which was the Profit Jam. The idea being that we make a lot of stuff and not a lot of it sees the light of day. We do a monthly game jam, and a lot of those game ideas just kind of disappear into the ether. So it was, you have 2 weeks to make a game and to ship it and to try to actually make money off of it, and in the next 4 weeks, whoever makes the most money with their game wins. So it started the first day of South by, and I was like, I can't do that, I don't have time. I did the show, and I was like, wow, I'm really glad I didn't decide to try to do that jam while I was at a show. But then on the drive home, I was like, maybe I do have time. Because it's a long drive. It's like 26 hours of driving.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that's a long drive.
So I came up with the idea for this game that you see here, which is called Breaker Blocks. I'll put a link in chat.
Yes, link. Do all the links.
Based on the idea that I picked up from watching people handle my game at South by Southwest, where in Yomi's Gate you have those modular boards that lock together, and they seem to really like putting those together. So the idea was, what if I made an entire game that was just putting pieces together?
So
Yeah,
And that's this.
This lets me take 3, right?
Yes. Yeah, so the way that this game works is there's this breaker, kind of, these 3 different points of contact. And each of us can only use one side of it, so Calvin has this side and I have this side. And we're trying to put more power into these spots individually than the other person to get control of it. And the person
Right.
who has the control over the most of these at the end of the game, which can end in a couple different ways, but basically the one who has control over the majority of these points, regardless of how many points over they have control of it, they win. Even if it's just 1, and the other 2 are tied or something like that.
Right. So, in other words, you have the circuit core, which you see there. It's that long block in the center. And there are 3 circuits you're trying to plug into, and you each get inputs into them. So the colored tiles are all power tiles, and they all control power to your side of the circuit. And you're trying, it's like a tug of war, essentially. You're trying to build up a more powerful path than your opponent on the other side.
Your turn.
And
Each
the
turn,
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
each turn you only get 2 actions, so it plays very quickly. And for those 2 actions, each action can be drawing a tile from the pile into your hand, playing a tile from your hand onto the board, and you can only play a tile that you already had in your hand at the beginning of the turn, so you can't draw and play the same tile, or rearranging one of your tiles on the board. And so you just pick 2 things, and you can do the same thing twice, and that's it. So what it creates is you get 1 turn of telegraphing. You have all these things in your hand to be like, look at what I could possibly do next turn. And then your opponent can make decisions about what they want to draw and what they want to play with that in mind.
Oh, that's one thing I didn't look. Are you supposed to hide your hand, or is it supposed to be common knowledge what
No,
we
it
have?
is supposed to be common knowledge.
Yeah,
I
it's
usually
part of the
just do
strategy.
2 different piles on the table, one being things I don't have yet, and one being things in my hand.
Cool. Okay, that makes sense.
What I found interesting about this is that not only does like what you place and in what order like matter a lot, but there's also like a physical like the where you place it creates a strategy where you can block out somebody else. Like what I found is really cool is that I can do like this and then this, and I've like knocked her out from being able to do that. And then that lets me pick up
Yeah, he's
and
blocked
place
me in that
one
spot. Although I do
instantly,
believe this
which-
piece that I just drew will save me, I believe, if I grab the right one that I'm thinking of.
Yeah, but I can override that as well.
How many
Like, so-
pieces are you putting down at a time now?
Okay, so I put this lets me put down.
Oh, that's
another
right. Fine.
one. So now my turn is done.
All right.
Yeah.
We're gonna fight.
Right.
Really
So he
cool.
played. It's called an automate tile, and automate's like a wild card. When you play it, you get to play a tile directly from one of the piles with the
Right.
on first.
Yeah.
So he used that. He built around the side, and physically blocked Alex, which is actually why those side tabs exist.
Mm-hmm.
It allows you to be a little bit more aggressive and get over there in 3 moves instead of like 4 or 5.
Right. And so what I can do at this point is I can take this, which allows me to, here, I'll show you which one, this piece. And if I place this down on my board, it should, as far as I understand, it should allow me to take one of my own blocks and destroy it as well as one of his.
No.
Or
This
one
just
of
lets
just
you
one
destroy
block? Just one block, right.
block.
So I'm gonna take
The annihilate tile. The
the
lightning bolt.
the lightning bolt. I'm just gonna
Right. You can
zap.
destroy one thing with that. Yep.
Yeah.
If you can get it
If
off.
I can pick it up, because
No,
my hands aren't working.
You can't do
There.
it. Don't destroy that.
This is now destroyed.
Mm,
I know. It's a bummer, right, Calvin?
it is.
So you can only target things that have nothing plugged into them. So that's part of the strategy too. Is like each of the power tiles has variant tabs on the side. So like a 3 has no tabs. You can never have anything plugged into it, so it's always exposed. So while a 3 is 50% more power than a 2, sometimes you want to play a 2 so you can plug other things into it and make it safe from things like the annihilate tile.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So it's like this sort of super, like, once you understand how to play the game, it plays out
Okay.
really quickly.
Yeah, that's kind of the idea, is that even Yomi's gate wasn't fast enough for me. So I wanted to make something that was even faster than that, even easier to learn, even faster to set up. The whole thing sets up, I mean, you guys saw it, it's as fast as it takes to dump the thing out and find the circuit core.
Yeah.
Like we're not even bothering with this.
We haven't even touched the middle circuit. We're like fighting over these specific spots.
That's pretty common. The middle one is intentionally obscured. It's the only one that's balanced. Like each player has 2 inputs
Right.
on one end. So like right now on the far end, blue has 2 inputs, and on the close end, orange has 2 inputs.
Mm-hmm.
But the middle one, you each have 1, and it's sandwiched between the other 2 sides.
Yeah.
So it's very hard to control that one. That's pretty much how everybody plays. It's often described as a mix between dominoes and Uno.
Oh, interesting. Yeah,
You
kind
kind
of.
of see, like the extra draws, the skips, the discards, all that kind of stuff. Makes sense.
Yeah. That's really cool. You should probably. Did you? Yes, you just recently put in a link. That's good. Okay. I'm just like, what else is there? So, is there anything else that you want to cover as far as what?
Didn't get to go to a win state.
We're not gonna win.
I
It's
weep
gonna be
openly.
bad. I have
I was
to
gonna kick
draw,
your butt.
and I don't have the things that I want to do it with.
So the win state for breaker blocks is control more circuits than your opponent at the end. So right now, blue controls circuit 3, and orange controls circuit 1, and nobody's controlling circuit 2. So it's currently tied. There's an action tile, one of the black ones, called Authenticate. When 2 of those hit the board, the game is over. It doesn't matter who played them, it doesn't matter where they were played. So essentially the game is building up to trying to be ahead long enough to play the second Authenticate tile. And you can only play 1 per turn, and you can only have 1 in your hand.
I found the best thing is like to make the other person think that they're about to win, and then they place the first authenticate tile, and then you win.
And
And then
you
place the
win.
second
Right.
authenticate tile.
That happens a lot. It's very risky to place that first one. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like a game of chicken.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can I win? Can I place that first one? Because it does nothing. It does nothing other than that. So you're essentially sacrificing 2 actions to say, I think I can beat you.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is a lot of these kind of command tiles, these black ones that we're using that have actions attached to them, it's like just a single pool. So it's not like you get one of this card, I get one of this card. He took both of these ones that gives him extra tiles in his hand. Blocks, I mean. My goodness, it's called breaker blocks. And I'm calling them
All
tiles.
the annihilators?
My goodness.
You
it's
should
it's
take
like
an aggravate tile
That's
and
what
make
I'm
him
doing.
discard all his stuff.
No.
I should. Yeah. Which one is that? Is that
It's
the
the one with all 4 arrows.
Yeah. Maybe next time. I don't think we're gonna have time though. I think we're actually out of time at this point.
Yeah. Took that one.
Is there anything that you didn't get a chance to
Control
say,
two.
or anything about your games, yourself? Because you've just been like throwing stuff around.
Yeah, I mean, that's the gist of it. I'm one guy. I do everything myself. I do all the design, all the production. People at the post office know me really well. And I make games. I do a lot of other stuff with my laser too. I also have glassware, for instance. I do etched glass. I did some official Towerfall stuff, some stuff for Monaco. Yeah. I'll link to my website, and you can see at the bottom there. There's 2 little windows. There's one for games and one for glass. And glass
Awesome.
will link you to all the different glassware that I do.
Very
Cool. I might be bugging you about GameKid stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, we have some physical things that are happening on the Robot Loves Kitty world as well.
And I want to bug you about making like a digital version of Yomi's game happen somehow. That would be so
We
cool.
might have some beginning developer people.
Yeah, maybe we can
who
throw
might
an
be up for
intern
a
at it or something,
project
because that would
if
just
you
be
want
so
to
cool.
share. Yeah, maybe.
Anyway, we should talk. We'll talk
Anyhow,
later.
that's
Yeah.
that's just
I
devs.
do that kind of
Copy
stuff
devs.
every so often. I made promo items for several indies in the area. It's one of the
Awesome.
benefits of like having access to my own laser.
Cool.
Which is still weird to say. I have a laser. It's like right next to me. It's huge.
Yeah, I want one. They're
They make awesome sounds while you're cutting stuff. Too.
Yeah. Same with the 3D printer.
Our friend in the woods actually had a laser cutter,
Yeah.
didn't he?
Yep.
All right. Okay,
Or
we
you should be
could
wrapping
talk
this
to you
up
for
instead of
hours.
talking about lasers, which would be fun.
Best of luck to you, everybody in chat. If you're interested in board games or you know somebody who is, these are seriously awesome games. And I'm not just saying that because I've met the developer and I kind of know him. I'm saying it because they're really fun. They're simple and they're handmade by machines.
Handmade by lasers.
Handmade by lasers.
The boxes are entirely hand assembled. Those are some work.
So that's it for you. You get to go back into the Internet of Abyss, Jake.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you
That was a lot
so
of
much for being here and for making these games. I know that it's a challenge to make a living doing stuff like this. So the best of luck.
fun. Thank you.
All right. Feel free to hang out and chat and post more